All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday, July 21st. I see a lot of you getting logged in and putting your names in the chat, which is perfect. If someone could let me know, can you hear me and see me okay before I keep going? That would be fantastic. I'll give you all just a minute to keep getting all logged in. If someone let me know. Oh, hi, Tropical Geek. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Nice to see you again, or see your name again. All right. So make sure again that you put your name in the chat so that I have a record of you being here. That is fantastic. Thank you, Sarah and Susanna. Thank you all for letting me know. I hope everybody is doing well. Feels like we've gone a little bit backward since I saw you all last week. Some new mask restrictions indoors. It's interesting, but they just, I think, are going to announce very soon that everything will be back to normal in the fall for at least like the high schools and elementary schools and stuff. So hopefully we're continuing to move forward. Again, such a crazy year, right? Perfect. Thank you again for all of you. Right. So we hope. I would agree. But hopefully everyone is doing well. I can't believe it's almost August. We're already in week 2. We are more than a fourth of a way through our very short class that we have together. So what we'll do this week, and this week will be much shorter than last week. I kind of went through everything in detail last week to make sure that you were doing okay and feeling good about the setup of the class. So what we will do this week is I'll give you some feedback from week number 1. So we'll talk a little bit about the discussions and exam from last week. And then I will go over some reminders for this week. So what are the things that are due? What are we covering, and so on. I'll give you the Twitch Extra Credit question, let you know when our next stream is, and then I'll see if there are any general questions. And we are in the second summer session, or the third summer session. This one ends and then the semester starts almost immediately afterward. It's coming. What do we start school in about 3-4 weeks or so? It's definitely coming up very, very quickly. So we have to enjoy the last little bit of our very warm summer that we have going on right now. So anyway, let's head over to Canvas together. Oh wait, let me give you the quick reminder. I put it here in the chat, and this is such a short class that you probably won't need to worry about this at least for another week or so. But don't forget to make sure that you have your little Prime crown or the little football cake next to your name so that you can benefit from those reduced ads. You can whisper to me, and then I can also download a list of those of you who are with me to make my life a little easier. So thank you for those of you who did all of that. Let's go to Canvas together and take a quick look. As I said, we're already 1/4 of a way through the semester, and it's such a short class. It goes very, very quickly. And last week, most of you did really, really well. I gave individual feedback in the form of a rubric, and then those of you who missed points on some of the discussion stuff, I tried to give you a little bit of feedback to help you with that as well. My pets like coming in hot here. Every time that we do our class, my pets are right here. But let's look a little bit at last week. So if we go back to week number 1, right? And she's gone again. So if we go back to week number 1, and then wait just a second. So the 2 discussions last week, discussion 1, a lot of really wonderful questions that you all came up with for what you would want to research. By far the most popular topic had to do with serial killers, and then COVID was number 2, right? So serial killers followed shortly by COVID, but a lot of you wanted to do some kind of research, a lot of surveys and experiments and observations. Those of you who lost points typically didn't give me enough information. So a few of you, I gave you the feedback of, make sure that you elaborate in your responses a little bit so that, I can make sure that I see and understand that you grasp the materials. So make sure that you're giving me a very full response One thing you might do is take a look at a few other people's responses before you post your own, just to get kind of a good idea of the amount that other people are saying. But for the most part, really nicely done on discussion number 1. Biggest reason people lost points, as I said, was not giving me enough or forgetting to respond to a peer. So when we talk about the reminders for this week, I'll show you how to do that one more time. But don't forget to respond to one of your classmates. That is only worth 2 points, but those 2 points will start to add up. So you want to make sure that you get them as you're moving through the semester. For discussion number 2 from last week, a lot of you, again, did a wonderful job. The biggest place that I saw people struggling was in talking about how neurons communicate with each other. So what I was really looking for you to reference as part of discussion number 2 was to go into a little bit of detail about the idea of electrochemical communication. So I wanted you to mention that neurons communicate in an electrochemical manner, the electrical piece having to do with the ions and the chemical piece having to do with neurotransmitters. So a few of you lost some points for not mentioning that or not going into enough detail as far as the 10% myth, which hopefully you found really interesting to think about and read about. But again, for the most part, a lot of you did fantastically. Lots of 13, 14, 15 scores out of 15. If you ever want a little bit more feedback, you can always email me and ask me specifically what you could have done differently. But for the most part, just make sure you're elaborating and showing off to me that you do understand and can apply the materials that we've been talking about. The one other big thing that we had last week, we had our first exam, and a lot of you did fantastic on the first exam, which makes me very happy. I'm glad that so many of you got A's and B's on the test. I hope that you found it to be relatively straightforward and clear. The average amount of time that people took taking the test was 59 minutes, so just shy of an hour. There were a few of you who went all the way to the 75 minutes, and there were a few people who finished it in like the 40-something minute range. So right around an hour, which I think is a good amount of time, shows me that most of you were prepared. You moved through the test pretty quickly. The average score was an 88, and when I say 88, I mean 88%, so I'm sorry, I think I confused a few of you with that. The score was out of 75, but the average score was an 88% out of 100. The high score was a 75. There were a few of you who got 100%. And the low score was a 43. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of where you fell compared to other people, again, the average was 88, the high 75, and the low 43. So what I'd like to encourage you to do is to use the exam as a learning experience. So if you did really well and you're happy with your score, do the same thing this week. It clearly worked for you, so prepare the same way, study the same way. If you wish you had done a little bit better, maybe start studying a little bit earlier, or if you didn't study very much at all, do a little bit more review. You could make some flashcards or study kind of chapter by chapter as you go through the week. But for the most part, a lot of A's, a lot of B's. Most of you should be very, very happy with your score. And then I did already bring all of those over to Canvas on Monday when I graded the discussions and did your exam grades. So overall, a really great job last week. Most of you did fantastic. And we'll follow a very similar format this week as we move into week number 2. But before I keep moving forward, are there any questions? Any questions or comments or anything at all about last week? Anything related to week number 1 before we move on to week number 2? I'll give you just a second to type that or get caught up. Any thoughts, questions, anything before we keep going? If you think of something, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm here, happy to answer it for you. Otherwise, we'll talk about some of the things we have going on this week. And so this week, very similar format, right? We have 4 chapters, chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we have 2 discussions, 3 and 4, and then exam number 2. and Twitch extra credit number 2. So this week we are looking at consciousness, learning, and then, oh my gosh, I just forgot what chapter 7 is. Let's open it up. Memory. That was a good one to forget. I forgot the chapter on memory. Memory, and then cognition. So for each of the chapters for this week, that was like one time in class I spelt intelligence wrong on the board. That's probably the worst word to spell incorrectly on the board, right? But for each of these chapters, make sure that you are looking through the entire lecture. So remember that there are those 5 different tabs at the top. So the first page has to do with summary. The second page, beyond the book, and there's a couple of kind of fun and helpful videos here. There's one about change blindness, a great tutorial on the different stages of sleep, a little bit about nightmares and sleep disorders and energy drinks, all things related to consciousness. Lots of in pop culture movies and shows related to sleep and dreams and drugs, on hypnosis, lots of different examples. The key terms in review, which you can always find on the 4th page. And then the last page will be application. How can you apply this in some way? And I focused on remembering your dreams, since one of the discussions for this week has to do with analyzing a dream that you have had recently. So make sure for each one of these different chapters, just as a quick reminder, that you are not only reading the lecture here, but watching the lecture video that I made for you. These are either going to be a Zoom link where you can watch it that way, or some of them are linked out to YouTube if there weren't any videos that would be a copyright problem, just to make it easier for you to watch it from anywhere. Good that you remember a lot of your dreams. Some people do, some people don't. I tend to think that dreams are really meaningful, and I love interpreting them and talking about them. So I tend to remember them pretty well, but they fade from our memory so fast because we were asleep when we had them. So again, make sure for each one of these that you're reading the chapter, right, watching the video, and then also watching the lecture or reading through the lecture. All of those things together will give you the best kind of grasp of the materials, and you can find materials from all of that also coming up on the exam. It didn't work when you click in the book. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully it works in here. Thank you for letting me know. Sometimes the ebook, right, it's a little more static. It's actually very hard to update. So let's check really quick on here to see if it worked. And if it doesn't, I'll go back and update it.
Hi, everyone.
You don't need to hear me twice. Right, so it's working on here just fine. But thank you, Susanna, for letting me know. I will go and check. Maybe they put in the link incorrectly or something. But it is working right here in this lecture. So thank you for letting me know. Let's see, what else was I going to say? So again, for this week, those are the big things to focus on. Then you have 2 discussions as well, discussion 3 and discussion 4. So for discussion number 3, you're looking at dreams specifically. So remember, I make you a little video for each one of these. So hopefully that will be something that you're watching and is helpful to give you some tips. There are some articles related to dreams, and you're going to be selecting a dream that you had recently and sharing it and writing about it and analyzing it from some of the different theories. And then for the next discussion, for discussion 4, you'll be looking at memory. So with memory, you are going to be doing this little activity here where if you had to memorize a 28-digit sequence of letters and numbers that I give you here in the video, how would you go about doing that? I give you an example of how I held on to it. So definitely watch the little video up here at the top, and then you'll talk a little bit more about remembering information, studying for exams, and tips related to memory. So when you are ready to respond to my questions, you hit reply right here underneath. And then remember, you also need to reply to a peer. So let's say I really want to reply to Riley, who posted on Monday. I could click reply right here and type my response. And that response is only worth 2 points. But as I mentioned, that's probably one of the most common reasons that people did lose points on the discussions last week. So don't forget to do the 2 discussions. read through the 4 different lectures and watch the videos. And then if you're on the ebook site, remember that you should also be reading the chapters that go along with these different lectures. So for example, you would click on chapter 5 and read through everything that I have here on states of consciousness. Here's where you can find all those different terms that are on the exam. There's lots of, I don't know, this is a really interesting chapter. In my opinion, consciousness is one of the more interesting topics in psychology, but lots of little things in here. Read through the different theories on sleep and what makes us sleepy, some little things about applying it, and some apps that are kind of fun for tracking your sleep if you wanted to do that. Power and cat naps and why they are a thing. So just some interesting things. Read through all of that, and again, anything from the chapter, the lecture, and also the video could show up on the exam. And that's really the last thing that you have for this week is exam number 2. And so, as I mentioned a moment ago, if you did well on the first test, then prepare very similarly. Remember that you have a study guide right here that will give you all of the terms that you need to know. So if it's on the study guide, you will see it on the exam. And if it's not on here, then you can let it go. You don't have to worry about it. So the exam number 2 has chapter 5 on consciousness. Chapter 6, all of these terms are related to learning. Chapter 7 related to memory. And chapter 8 related to cognition. So as I mentioned last week, if it were me, what I might do is type up or write out all of these terms on a piece of paper or in a document, and then I would have it right next to me to reference during the exam, so I'm not looking through materials and trying to find them. Most of you, again, 59 minutes was the average, so a lot of you were well prepared, plenty of time to spare. But if you found that you were struggling a little bit, that might be one way that you can give yourself a little bit more preparation. Just make sure you know and understand anything that is here on the study guide. So let me minimize that here. And then when you're ready, once you have prepared and you're ready to go, you'll go over to the ebook site and click on exams up at the top. And then you can take this next test. So you'll scroll down. Here are the instructions, and they're the same for this test as they were for the last one. I actually think this one's a little easier because it doesn't have diagrams, but that's might be a personal preference. But you have 75 minutes to take the test, just like last time. You get 1 attempt, so make sure you're ready and organized before you begin. You can use your notes, your book, your study guide, anything at your disposal. But again, remember that you'll be short on time if you're trying to look everything up. Don't forget to save your answers so that it turns that gold kind of orange color before you submit your exam. And make sure you're watching the clock, because once you hit 75 minutes, it will boot you out. Then it'll only save what you've done so far. So make sure you're watching the clock and saving your answers. Don't wait till the last minute. Try and do it a little bit earlier in the week if you can. And you'll get a score immediately when you're done. Just remember that I don't bring those over into Canvas until Monday when the week has ended. So I think those are the big things for this week. Again, 4 chapters, 2 discussions, and an exam. I'll give you this Twitch extra credit in a moment, but just one more thing that I tend to find helpful. If you go click on the syllabus, as I showed you last week, sometimes for some people it might help to give you kind of a snapshot of the week. So if you go all the way to that last page, you can see here again the things that are due and required for the week. So week number 2, these are the topics and chapters that we're covering, just if that gives you another way of organizing the information. I try to send out an announcement on Monday, then the email Monday night, and some reminders during the week. But if you want to make sure you're following along, don't forget that you can always take a look at the syllabus, and that might be helpful to you as well. So let me see, are there any questions at all about the content for this week, the requirements for this week, anything at all related to week number 2? And while I'm waiting for you on that, I'm going to remind you of our next Twitch stream, just so that you have that information. Oops. All typing that here in the chat. So our next Twitch stream will be next week on Thursday, right? So I changed it from Wednesday to Thursday next week due to a softball practice for my daughter. But we have our next stream, so Twitch stream number 3 will be on Thursday, 7/29 at 8 o'clock p.m., right? Okay, interesting, thank you. Right, lots of really interesting people who have done a lot of research on sleep. And wildly, we know very little about sleep. We spend a third of our life sleeping, and there's still so much that we don't understand. A really fun and interesting area of psychology, and a place where we definitely need a lot more research to be done, so that we can understand what dreams are and why we sleep and all that kind of fun stuff. All right. So, any questions? Anything about week number 2? The things that are due this week? Comments from last week? Anything at all? Let me grab the extra credit question for you while you are thinking about that a little bit more. So here's the extra credit question. I'm going to put this on here. It says Twitch extra credit week number 2. So what I want you to do for the extra credit this week, and I'll show you where you can find this. You can find this video in the lecture. Oh, look at you. It's like you were on the same idea as me. Is it Sia or Saya? I'm giving you the question right now. So the question is to identify the US, UR, CS, and CR in the Attack of the Quack video in the lecture for this week. So you're not defining the terms, you're identifying them in the clip. And so let me give you a couple of more pieces of information about that. So this is related to Chapter 6 on learning. So US stands for unconditioned stimulus. UR is the unconditioned response. CS is the conditioned stimulus. And CR, the conditioned response. So I'm getting some ice in the background here. Sorry. So for those 4 things in that clip, you'll watch it. It's a little prank video, and you're just going to identify what those 4 different components are. Don't define them, but in the clip, what are they? So if you head back to Canvas and you go to this week, so week number 2. So go to the Chapter 6 lecture. And on the very last page where it says application, I have a video right here, right? Here's the Attack of the Quack video. I also play this video for you in the lecture video that I made for the week. But right here, if you were to click on this, it should bring up the video for you. And it's very short. It's only a minute and a half. But you'll watch this video, and then what I want you to do afterward is to identify those 4 different components. It's very comical. This is definitely something that you could do if you wanted to over the week or over a weekend. Very great example of classical conditioning. Another really fun one in The Office, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen, with the Altoid, with the mint that kind of get the prank with the computer sound in the mint. But you'll watch this video, and then just what is the US, UR, CS, and CR. And I gave you this tip in the lecture, but you want to make sure that you always start with the conditioned stimulus. Start with the CS. I'll put that here in the chat. So let me repost the question. A couple of you asking for it. So here's the question again. But always start with the CS, right? And by doing that, when you start with a conditioned stimulus, if you watch a clip, ask yourself, what was it at the beginning of that clip that was neutral or meaningless and became meaningful as a result of the conditioning? And if you do that, then you can kind of get everything to unfold from there. And I gave you lots of examples in the lecture for this week, so make sure you watch that before attempting the extra credit. But as soon as you're ready, you'll go back to Canvas, and then under this week, you'll click on Twitch extra credit number 2 right here. And then up here at the top, you can hit Start Assignment. And then you'll just type your response right here in the box and hit Submit Assignment. And it'll give you the little confetti, which is very exciting. But that's how you can go ahead and answer that as soon as you are ready. And again, make sure that you are watching the lecture video and reading the chapter first, or you'll struggle a little bit to do that. But you can find that video under the lecture for this week, both here on Canvas and the video that I made for you. And once we're done here tonight, I will upload this so that you can watch it easily later. I did that last week. I uploaded it to YouTube so you could watch it from anywhere, and I posted the link. It takes a couple of hours, so bear with me on that because it's a long live stream. It takes a couple of hours, but then I will post it right here for you underneath the Twitch Extra Credit #2 link. So I think those are all the big things that I had for you to remind you of this week. I gave you the extra credit, a little bit about last week. Are there any other questions? Let me type that in here. Any other questions or thoughts or comments at all before we call it a night? I'm sad that Shark Week is over, but I'm still watching all of it on the Discovery app, and then we have the Olympics coming up as long as they don't get canceled, right? And then I'm dying to watch Quiet Place 2 now that I can stream that from home. So very exciting, some fun things to watch on TV. And oh, sorry, there was a question here. So is Quizlet a good resource to study for your exams? If it helps you, sure. The nice thing about Quizlet is you can put it on your phone, and then you can go through it like flashcards anywhere that you're at. I think it's a really helpful app, but it's totally up to you. So if you find that you wish you had done a little better, you could try Quizlet for this exam, see if it helps. You could make some physical flashcards if that's helpful to you, or as I mentioned, even just writing it or typing it out and having it in front of you. But a lot of people use Quizlet. It's a nice free resource and way to prepare and study for exams. So it's worth a shot for you, for sure, if you want to give it a try and see if it helps. Anything else? Any other questions? If not, remember that our next Twitch stream, as I mentioned, will be next Thursday. So make sure that you get going on week #2, get the discussions and the lectures and the exam done. Don't wait until Sunday night. Try and get it done a little bit earlier in the week. And what I'll do, I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little bit if anyone has any other questions related to the class or the content from this week. Otherwise, make sure you put your first and last name in the chat at some point, and I will hopefully see all of you online next week. So have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay cool in this hot weather, and I hopefully will see you all next Thursday at 8:00 p.m. And again, as I said, I'll hang out for a little bit. It's late, huh? It's only 8:30. It's not too late, but I'll hang out for a little bit if you have any other questions. Maybe you're in a different time zone, Tropical Geek. Thank you all as well. Thank you for being on here with me live. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Hope it treats you well as well, Sarah. Thank you. Okay, the Twitch extra credit. So if you scroll back up in the chat, it's there, but let me copy and paste it for you. I'll put it back in the comments right here. So it was to Allie. It was to identify the US, UR, CS, and CR in the Attack of the Quack clip in the lecture for this week. So it's a chapter 6 lecture, and you can always go back and if you missed part of it, you can rewatch that part later. I went through and showed you where you could find that video. Perfect. Yeah, that's why I just reposted it. Hopefully that will make it easy to find. Good. I'm glad you got it. Have a good night too. Thank you again all for being here. Hopefully I'll see you all next week. right, everyone, it doesn't look like there are any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and log off. But of course, if you think of something, feel free to email me. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you all next Thursday night at 8 o'clock p.m.